the US or Europe or Asia, because I have those different names that appear for those who are attending today. So thank you for attending. Thank you for joining every week. And a little housekeeping that's going to take me 30 seconds. Most importantly, those who are on YouTube or go to YouTube to see the recorded version of this broadcast should register in YouTube, should subscribe in YouTube. I don't know how to ask you this without begging you, because it's important for the future of that YouTube channel that is still very young. There's very, very little subscriptions there. And that's why I need so much of you to join the subscription list so that we can increase the content, that I can have more guests coming, and that we can share also more information, exclusive information, because we are at we have the privilege, and I say we because I have a team of people with me, uh, meeting with so many different kind of people out there in the corporate world, entrepreneurs, and people who are professionals, and those who work for the private sector, for the public sector, for the non-for-profit sector. It's incredible and also very global. Sometimes it's really amazing to see someone in Singapore, someone in Malaysia, someone in Spain, in Barcelona, or in Portugal. Very amazing to me. Not because it's international, it's because it's multicultural. So please subscribe on YouTube channel. I cannot beg you enough. We have here a chat space for you to chat, to send messages, and to with the possibility also to reach out to me via the website www.andrepolitzer.com. And when I receive that message from you, I send you a link, and you can join me here in the studio and form a forum with me for the next 28 minutes or so, because it's a 30 minutes program. I think I said everything I wanted to say, and welcome to everybody. This evening is a theme that I have to tell you is very close to my heart, because it has to do with freedom. Remember the song Freedom? Freedom and freedom and freedom is an incredibly precious, humongous gift that we have in this world. And I'm not going to depend on a regime, if I can, on a government, on a policy, when I feel that I have the choice for myself to use the space I have, the time I have, and decide what I do of it. If I have no control of my time and my space, what am I going to do? Right? And I can be an independent contributor in an organization. I can be a manager, a leader, or I can be, like I am here, a coach or a consultant on my own account, right? Freelance. You see you hear the word freelancer. So freedom is really a privilege that everybody can take, like a subscription. You take a membership card to freedom, and this is a choice. So the first message I have for everybody, because it comes in all the sessions, in mediation, it comes to all aspects of me having this privilege to be with people, supportive of people, being a resource to people, and being a partner to my clients and to even my friends and my family members. I want to be with everybody, embrace life really with a lot of gratitude, and gratitude that I can correspond, that I can communicate, exchange ideas, and be also listened and be paid attention to when I have an opinion or something to say that could support someone else. That's the beauty of you change the world, because that's how you do it. You change the world because you can have an influence, you can have an impact for who you are, whoever you are, with your strength, with your experience, with the years of your background and personal background and professional background, all of these assets that you haven't yet, you represent. How about managing those assets the way you want? How about, how about taking ownership? Because this is what it is. You can report to someone as an employee. You can have a boss, multiple bosses. You can have a citizenship, or you can be a family member and still have always this option to a large proportion. I'm not saying always 100% of it, but to a large proportion, take ownership of your life. Guys, I'm telling you, it sounds very simple. It sounds very elementary. Every day, I need to remind everybody, I really need to. And I say everybody, it's unanimous to many extent. We're so dependent to so many things. I wish I could offer everybody a pair of scissors, cut that string, cut that umbilical cord that you have attached to so many different things that really are getting you stuck or getting you suffocating, missing oxygen, to be yourself, to be in control, to feel free and be happy. I tell you the truth. You don't have those strings or umbilical cords attached. It's a myth. For most of the time, it's a myth. Try to convince me that it's not. Of course, if you live in China, Russia, in very strong regimes where everything is dictated and have dictators governing you, it's another story. But still, you still have freedom of choice. You can choose for yourself different things. Less, maybe the scope is narrower, but it's less. And you also have the choice to flee, to leave, to go somewhere else if you can. I mean, we are, as my case, right, a descendant of people who have been in situations that were terrible, of not being free, of being imposed on, or being, imprisoned in systems, in concentration camps, in different situations like that, where there was no choice. So obviously, maybe I have something in my DNA that is naturally reacting when I feel that something is taking a grasp on me, or when I just feel controlled. I really have this reactive type of sense that if I feel controlled, I boil inside. I want to get free. I want to get this key, open up the door, and just fly away from this constraint, restriction, and limitation. And if I work for someone or with someone, that person knows that I need my freedom to be the best of myself, especially also in my family. I have the trust of my spouse, the trust of my children, that I'm making the right choices so they can leave me my freedom of choice in many, many instances. Because I have probably a good heart, because I want to be supportive, because I want to help. I'm not going to be passive about seeing, my wife busy washing the dishes. No, I'm going to also take the sponge and start, cleaning those dishes. I'm just trying to say freedom of choice, freedom of decision. When you know yourself and you're confident, you have really a self trust that your choices usually are wise, at least within the scope of what you know. So, what we can control, we can control. I'm not saying that we are all in control of everything. But my first question I ask when we go in about time management, and some of you that I coach are there, maybe listening, you know that my first question is to ask you the proportion of time you feel is not under your control. That weekly meeting that you have to go to with your manager, the management meeting, the Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m., weekly meeting that you need to attend, you must attend. That's something you can control. So that's part of a percentage of the scale to zero, from 0 to 100, where I'm asking you, what is the scale of your liberty, of your freedom? Tell me how much you own of your time. And then we can talk about time management. And hopefully, you're going to tell me it's above 60%. Hopefully. But I'm hearing so many times that it's under 40% or 35%. Of course, there is some jobs out there that do not give you much freedom. If you have you're on a shift, if you are in a hospital, a nurse, and you have to be there on the day shift, the afternoon shift, the night shift. Obviously, there is much less space for you to maneuver and adapt yourself or adapt the time to you. It's true, absolutely true. But most of the time, the people that I coach have more latitude, more flexibility, and with this time frame, they have to realize how much they own their time. So, look, I hate monologues, and I just want to get to some stories, very, very, very much so, because by sharing you some cases, some stories, I bring you to facts, to examples, to situations, and you know that I'm situational. I think that we learn every day from situations. We can journal. Remember, I'm very much after journaling because journaling is a way of holistically taking note of things that are relevant to you and important to you and that matters to you. So when we talk about freedom, if I would take a journal and call it my journal about my freedom, journal about my control, right? So here is the first story. Someone in San Francisco, in the time of the confinement for COVID, with husband and 4 children in a 3-bedroom apartment somewhere in San Francisco. That person is the head of a department in a company, in a bank, let's put it this way. And that person even is going to get promoted in the course of our coaching to the next position in a very important managerial position. In spite of what? In spite of very young kids that need attention from their mother, and I'm talking about the mother here, and space that is limited, where the husband is also home working virtually in another room, and the kids don't come back from school. In San Francisco, especially, there was, in fact, more of a confinement than anywhere else in America. It was very, very restrictive. You could not go outside so much, like they're living now this kind of situation in China. So San Francisco was very restricted. They were very much locked in, sorry. And the scope, the latitude was very difficult, was challenging, let's put it this way. And really, we are okay by saying that constraints, restrictions, probably push down the freedom that I'm talking about, that independence that I'm talking about, that autonomy rating or ranking to less than 30%, probably less than 30%. But it's still 30%. And within the 30%, that's how this person could excel. She had another incredible feature is that she always was ahead of the game in many, many instances. When she was a kid, you would say that she would be 2 years ahead of anybody else. She had this kind of, brilliance and privilege to be always ahead of the game. So one of her challenge managing people was, how can I stay with everybody in terms of the pace and what they capture, and understand when I'm already two yards away ahead of them, or 2 miles, million miles away ahead of them, and push me back to their level so they can manage and have leverage and have influence on them. The freedom that she had was this awareness that 30% was about that very point, that she needed to create a mindset of being on the same wavelength with her peers and employees, or direct reports, put it this way. And then she had all the constraints of the confinement at the same time. So she was dealing with a lot of challenges. And what I realized maybe within 2 sessions was that she still felt like she was in a cubicle in the office. She was really very restricted in her space, more than restricted with her time. The 30% autonomy that she had was not with time. It was with time and not with space. Space was down to 1% maybe, or 2. What I mean by that is that because of the configuration of the apartment, because of the kids being around and the needs of the kids for a story, for presence, for mommy to be around, how could this happen? How could this be handled properly with agility and in the same time be completely available and dedicated to the job. As I said, she got promoted. She was a high performer. She had this incredible feature of an asset of understanding things quickly or being ahead of the game. So, what the coaching did for her, and what in fact she realized all by herself, was this incredible margin that she had, latitude, flexibility that she had because of her intellectual capabilities. So, by assessing what she was capable of doing, she could recreate the space and organize her time so that within this 30% autonomy, it was maximized. The children had their place in the space, her husband had the space in the space, and she had full control of making decisions within this 30% independent autonomy, call it that way. I don't know if you follow me, but what I'm trying to share with you is the decision that she made, that she realized first that she was home within her own perimeter, and this control allowed her to make decisions and plan according to her own schedule. Even the 70% of what she was dependent on could sometimes be leveraged or compensated by something that she could do, where she could feel that it was her decision and her alternative. So that's number one example and story I wanted to share. The confinement, the restricted space, the restricted time, and eventually the wake up call one morning, realizing, oh no, I'm not in my cubicle. I did not commute today. I'm home. There's a lot of advantages about that. I need to analyze what is mine now that I'm here. And it's not at all a question of being in the cubicle, but it's a question of being in my own space. All right, first story. My second short one is incredible because it's someone who escaped from Russia in the middle of this war with Ukraine and in the middle of a big turmoil, right? Where people are now to probably up to a 100% dependence on when you're in the army and you're on the front war, you have to be completely aligned with orders that you receive, with all the things that comes your way. This person had to escape, obviously. He had a family, he wanted to own his destiny. So that's the move I want to describe here. The move of escaping imprisonment, that kind of imprisonment, where there was still there was a choice that that person could make at a certain time. And it's because of a regime, it's because of something that was constrained, dictated, and that he was not necessarily agreeing with. So it was pure slavery, if you will, to accept all of that and be completely dependent on that. Now, there is another thing I want to mention. So that's what I wanted to say. That's the only story I want to tell about this person. Escaping gives that person a mindset here, the escaping, that physical experience of moving away from all the constraints and all the different strings and umbilical cords that were imposed on that person, and boom, 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 cutting all of that off, going through, even on a boat, having a difficult time escaping physically with family, with wife, with spouse, with children, and go to a free country where that person could restart his own life. Fantastic story in the sense that that person made a choice, made a decision that many people made during war times or other times to flee from what we are sometimes creating for ourselves, which is this grasp that we have on our life, that people take on our lives, excuse me. So for the train of thought of control and non-controlling and not controlling, try to reflect on that. That's the invitation I make here. I know it's not a fun topic when you think about it that way, the control, the non-control. But hopefully, if you identify with anything I say about freedom of choice, if there is some kind of a wake up that you could try to connect to, that yes, you have more time than you think, you have more power than you think, you have more voice than you think, then maybe this will resonate with you. Maybe. Why this is coming up in the way it does now in this program today, in the internet, in social media, on a podcast, and from someone who has just a function of coaching people, of opening up minds, of trying to get people to reflect or connect to their core and their core values, is because sometimes we're so distracted from this. So let's make it very simple now for the next 4 minutes, 9 minutes that we have together. I first again invite you to join me. If you have 9 minutes, is 9 minutes, to use the chat if you have questions or things you want to share. And please do, because it's live and it will stay with the program because it's also recording, but it will record your message in your chat. Everything and input you can share, your own story that you can share, will give and add more value to what I say. But what I say is from the sessions and from the people that I talk with and the experiences that I have through their experience and my own experience. But the truth is here. What I try to convey to you is to assess yourself in terms of how dependent you are on things that in fact keep you very, very tight in different things. If it's time, if it's space, if it's decision making, or if it is just feeling free and feeling happy, feeling that you're breathing, that you are on your own, that you can really take that responsibility. Because I am sure that of that scale from 0 to 100, if we talk about autonomy, there is still a thin or a very wide margin you can take back and own for yourself. That's what I'm inviting you to think about. Journal it. Journal it. That means take a piece of paper, take a nice notebook, a beautiful pen, and write every day what you appreciate about your freedom of choice, your freedom of making decisions about your own destiny, that even your career is not in the hands of your employer necessarily. I'm not trying to get you out of where you are. Some people I talk to have been 15, 20 years in the same company, and they are very loyal to their company. And it's very difficult to think that I'm going to separate myself from the company. So I ask André, coach me. I need to be promoted. Coach me. What do I need to do to get promoted? 2-3 times a day. This is one of the topic we're talking about. And then I'm saying to myself, hold on. Tell me what you did. What are your efforts about acknowledging first by yourself that you're entitled to that promotion? Secondly, did you ask for it? Thirdly, what did you do about it? And lastly, if you did everything you had to do, let go now, it's going to happen or won't happen. Now, what is your alternative to that? You still need that promotion. Why do you depend on your employer's decision to promote you to get promoted? That's a very good example. Why do you depend on that? If you did everything you had to do, and if your employers knows everything they need to know, and do not promote you for any kind of reasons, and that gets you so frustrated, you've been in your position for 2-4 years, it didn't move. You even saw people that were not performing as well as you did getting promoted and not you, right? So many things you can identify with. How about taking really ownership of this particular promotion and do whatever you need to do, right, to think of your next position, the next dream job that you want, and now be marketable and do what you need to do, observing the market, looking for opportunities, thinking of the companies that you would love to be working with, and create this alternative. Guess what? It's called BATNA, Best Alternative for Negotiated Agreements. You'll probably know that. It's a tool for negotiation. If you have an alternative, and that could be another job, you go through the process of interviews and all of that, because you're not promoted. They get you stuck. You are in an idle position that doesn't really satisfy you, And it was for 4 years, for 3 years. Why do you wait? Why do you make yourself dependent on a decision that is not yours, right? But your decision to make yourself marketable, to define where you want to be next and when you want to be at the next level, and then do the extra effort now outside the scope of your company so that next year, 2023, you get promoted, but to another company and to another job, even maybe skipping one level above if you can, whatever it is that you want. But necessarily, I want to just make sure that you get it, the message I say, that you're free. If you want to take that freedom, you have the choice. Or I stay completely dependent on my company's, on my employer's decision to promote me, or I create an alternative, still very loyal, still willing to stay with the company. And who says it's outside the company? If you work in a large company, who says if someone is in fact waiting for your application, waiting for you to declare, I want that job, I'm available to you. And then all of a sudden, in a total different department, by doing networking, by outreaching, you discover that in fact within the same company, it will keep your benefits and all of that, your 401k and all of that, you will have a position that is promotion. But you will realize two things. One, you are staying dependent on your boss and boss's boss, skip managers, and all the other people involved and stakeholders to get promoted. You are completely dependent on that. You are not looking further than that, forward than that. So I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart to take ownership. You want to get promoted? You're entitled to be promoted. They're not promoting you. Take ownership. Create an alternative. And this applies to anything else. Okay, many people give you advice. And for that 3 minutes left, I want to just mention why I really chose that topic today, being on my own today without a guest, because I really think it's very important at this juncture in our history. We're depending on the news. We're depending on anything that we read, that we see, even that our employers get as an influence to decide that it's an economic crisis, that it's a recession, or that they are going to freeze hiring people or anything like that, right? It's their, again, prerogative, not necessarily yours. It's not necessarily justified. It's influenced by exterior factors. News are very, very powerful today about impacting these kind of decisions, unfortunately. Doesn't mean it's the reality. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying it doesn't mean it is. So what's most important when you wake up in the morning and going to really go through the day and through the year and through your life is to understand how much you own your own destiny and grasp that ownership. Please do. It's a decision you can make. Don't remain dependent. Make an assessment of all the strings that are attaching you to dependencies that are not necessarily mandatory for you. I'm not saying it's 100% the case. You've got children to pick up at school at a certain time of the day. You've got all of those things. Those are dependencies, and they are good ones. But there's so many that you don't let come to you as a very strong alternative for you to decide what to do with this or that. Please follow my lead here. Follow my thought. Open a journal. Start to count what is a blessing for an individual human being in this world is to have this possibility to choose, this possibility to be free, this possibility to own your own destiny, and to take those scissors and start cutting those cords, those anchors, those chains that attach you to things that, in fact, could be completely away from you, completely abstract, and not justified, and give you back the time, give you back the space, give you back the control that you are entitled to have. Please, this is my conclusion for today. Take this away, please, And let's talk about it regularly, because it's not only one talk or one session that will convince you or will make you internalize this, but we need to, because it's a core value. It's a core need for most of us to feel free, to feel independent, to feel autonomous. So let's embrace freedom and celebrate. And please, let's do this now. Thank you, and see you next week with a surprise guest. And thank you for coming today, and thank you for joining, and looking forward to be in contact with you. Again, please subscribe on the YouTube channel. It's very important, and I will really be very grateful if you do so. Bye, and have a good evening. Bye.